Lately, we've had quite a few complaints about excessive smoke out of tailpipes. Like we've probably had three of those concerns this week, and they've all been different. And smoke from a tailpipe can tell you a lot. There's usually different variables depending on the type of smoke. So we just wanted to cover what the different types of smoke mean, what they can do to your vehicle, and when you should get them checked out. The most common one we see is white smoke. We had a customer this week that they actually had a hard time starting their vehicle. And then once they finally got it started, it was just throwing great big white clouds of smoke out the back of the tailpipe. Typically, that issue is coolant that's entering the combustion chamber, whether that's through a blown head gasket or through a cracked block that's allowing it into the combustion chamber that way. But white smoke is indicative of coolant in the combustion chamber. And that is definitely something that you want to get looked at sooner than later. We do have vehicles that will, when you start them, especially at first thing in the morning, it'll just kind of do a puff of blue smoke out the back. That's typically burning oil. That means there's oil getting into the combustion chamber. Depending on the amount of smoke and the amount of oil that you have to add in between oil changes, that determines how severe that issue is. But again, that's something that you want to get looked at sooner than later. Something like that usually involves an engine replacement because that's worn piston rings, something of that nature that's deep inside the engine. It's more cost effective just to change the engine. Another one that's not as common, but we have seen, is black smoke coming out of the tailpipe. When you have black smoke coming out of the tailpipe, that's typically too much fuel is entering the combustion chamber. And when too much fuel enters the combustion chamber, you get that weird black kind of emissions out the back. That's something that can be a plugged air filter that's not allowing enough air to get in, unmetered fuel, like a bad fuel injector that's just constantly dripping and leaking fuel. Those are all things that you would definitely want to get looked at sooner than later, just because if you're losing fuel, you're losing gas, and gas is expensive, especially these days. Now, there is a difference between those big pickup trucks that when you see them roll down Main Street, they're rolling thick black clouds of smoke out the back. They're actually making it do that. And all that is just raw, unburned fuel. It's not efficient at all. But what they're doing is dumping extra fuel into the combustion chamber to intentionally make it blow that black smoke, or roll coal, as everybody calls it, because they think it's cool. But really, it's just costing them an arm and a leg in fuel. That's all it's doing. No extra power. There's no extra benefit to it. They just think it's cool. But, you know, the price of cool ain't cheap. So how do we determine when it's time to get it looked at? When you have excessive smoke that's colored, it's not that almost moisture, how moisture looks when it comes out of the tailpipe, that's normal. But if you have white smoke, blue smoke, or black smoke you've noticed consistently coming out of your tailpipe, that's time to get it checked out. It'll also leave a residue on the tailpipe itself. You can actually run your finger through it and check the residue. That is when it's time to get it looked at. The only reason you want to get it looked at sooner than later is because you don't want it to cause any more damage than it already has. Sometimes if you let something like that go for longer periods of time, it'll actually end up damaging other components, especially exhaust components like a catalytic converter. And those can be expensive. Those range anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000, depending on the type of vehicle you drive. So it is important to get those looked at sooner than later. Another indication that you're having a burning condition is if you're losing coolant, but you're not seeing anything hit the ground, or you're losing oil and you're not seeing anything hit the ground. That's a time to get that looked at and have a professional. So for example, this is a vehicle that we know burns oil on startup. And one way to prove that is by checking the inside of this tailpipe. You can see the black soot on my finger. That's an indication of oil being burned on startup. So when was the last time you noticed weird smoke coming out of your vehicle or even somebody else's vehicle?